The evening sun hung low in the sky, painting the road in a warm orange glow as Ahsan drove home from work. It had been a long and tiring day, but he felt strangely excited. His cousin's wedding was only a week away, and he wanted to be home in time to help with the preparations. His mother had already called twice, asking where he was and reminding him not to be late. He promised her he would reach on time. Ahsan loved driving. He enjoyed the feeling of the cool air rushing through the window and the quiet moments when he was alone with his thoughts. But he also had a habit that worried his family. Sometimes he drove too fast, especially when he felt in a hurry. His father often told him, reaching a few minutes early is not worth taking a risk. Remember that. Ahsan always nodded, but deep down he believed he was a good enough driver to handle anything. The road home was a narrow highway that twisted through small hills and open fields. It was a route he had taken hundreds of times. He knew every turn, every slope, and every sharp curve. Many drivers slowed down when reaching the hilly section, but Ahsan felt confident. He checked the dashboard clock. If he kept his speed, he would be home before sunset. As he entered the hilly stretch, he noticed a slow-moving truck ahead of him. Its tires rolled lazily, and it carried heavy cement bags. The truck was moving so slowly that Ahsan felt trapped behind it. He pressed the brake lightly and sighed impatiently. The road here was narrow, with a steep drop on one side and a rocky wall on the other. Passing a vehicle needed patience and good timing. Ahsan leaned slightly to the right to see if the opposite lane was clear, but the road curved sharply ahead, hiding everything beyond it. He knew the rule: never overtake on a curve. Still, the impatience inside him grew, pushing against his common sense. He felt as if the minutes slipping by were too valuable to lose. His mind kept whispering, "It's fine. You've done this before. You'll make it." The truck continued slowly, almost crawling. Ahsan tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. He could feel frustration heating his chest. He looked again at the curve ahead. The road seemed silent. No headlights, no engines, no movement. Just a quiet bend. His heart beat faster with a dangerous mix of confidence and irritation. He made up his mind. Without giving himself another second to think, he turned the steering wheel slightly and pressed the accelerator. His car surged forward, moving into the opposite lane. The engine roared as he tried to overtake the truck before the curve ended. For a moment, everything felt smooth and easy. The truck was behind him, and he felt a small thrill of victory. But the curve was tighter than he remembered. The road bent more sharply, and suddenly he could see further ahead. And then he froze. A white car appeared from the opposite direction, coming straight toward him. It was too close. The vehicle swerved slightly as the driver saw Ahsan in his lane. Their headlights flashed like a warning. In that instant, the world seemed to stop moving. Ahsan's breath caught in his throat, and his hands trembled on the steering wheel. He tried to swerve back into his own lane, but the truck was still too close behind him. The space was narrow. He pressed the brake, but the road was slightly dusty, and the tires slid. The white car honked loudly, a sharp and desperate cry. Ahsan felt panic rise inside him like a wave. His heart hammered in his chest as he jerked the wheel harder than he should. The car shook, slipping dangerously near the edge of the road. He felt the left side of his car lift slightly as the wheels struggled for balance. The world outside blurred, and his mind filled with a single thought: I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Ahsan managed to pull the car back into his lane, but the sudden movement caused him to lose control. The car spun slightly, skidding sideways. He could hear the tires screeching on the dusty road. The truck behind him braked suddenly, its brakes screaming loudly. The white car swerved onto the shoulder to avoid crashing into him. Ahsan's car slid toward the rocky wall. He gripped the wheel so tightly that his knuckles turned pale. The car hit the side with a loud crash, shaking his whole body. His vision blurred for a moment as the impact jolted him violently. The sound of breaking metal echoed in his ears. Silence followed. The dust settled around his car like a cloud. Ahsan sat still, breathing heavily. His arms felt weak, and his heartbeat pounded loudly in his ears. His car was tilted slightly, one side pressed against the rocky wall. The engine had turned off on its own. Ahsan blinked slowly, trying to understand what had just happened. He looked around. The airbags had deployed, but he was still conscious. His forehead hurt a little, and his shoulders ached, but he was alive. He reached for the door and pushed it open. It creaked loudly as he stepped out onto the road. The cool evening air hit his face, clearing his thoughts. His legs were shaky, but he managed to stand. The white car that had almost collided with him pulled over a few meters ahead. A middle-aged man stepped out, his face filled with shock and worry. The truck driver also came running, his steps heavy and urgent. "Are you okay?" The white car's driver called out, his voice trembling. Ahsan nodded slowly, though he felt far from okay. The truck driver reached him first. "Beta, what were you doing?" he asked, breathing hard. "Why did you try to overtake on a curve? You could have died. You could have killed someone else." Ahsan lowered his eyes. Shame washed over him like cold water. He didn't have an answer. He knew the rule. He knew the risk. And yet, he ignored everything just to save a few minutes. The man from the white car stood beside him. "I thought I wouldn't survive," he said quietly. "If I hadn't moved to the side in time. I don't even want to imagine what could have happened." His voice shook slightly. Ahsan felt a painful weight settle in his chest. He looked at his damaged car. The front was crushed, the side dented. It could have been worse, much worse. He could have gone over the edge. Another car could have hit him. Someone could have been badly hurt. He realized how close he had come to destroying not only his own life, but also the lives of others. All because he was impatient. The truck driver gently touched his shoulder. "Sit for a moment," he said softly. "You're in shock." Ahsan sat on a rock by the side of the road. His hands shook uncontrollably as he tried to breathe slowly. The world around him seemed unreal. The golden evening light looked calm and peaceful, completely opposite to the chaos that had just happened. After a few minutes, both men helped him check his injuries. Thankfully, he had only minor bruises. The drivers talked to each other and decided to call the highway patrol to report the accident. They stayed with Ahsan until the officers arrived. The officer who examined the scene shook his head. "You're very lucky," he said. "This could have been fatal. Never try to overtake on a blind curve. You cannot see what's coming. Next time, you might not get another chance." Ahsan nodded silently, tears forming in his eyes. He felt embarrassed, guilty, and overwhelmed. He knew the officer was right. He had taken a risk that offered nothing in return except danger. Once the report was completed, the other drivers left after making sure he was okay. Ahsan's father arrived shortly after, worried and pale. When he saw Ahsan standing, he rushed to him and hugged him tightly. "I could have lost you today," his father whispered, his voice breaking. Ahsan felt tears spill down his cheeks. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I was impatient. I shouldn't have done it." His father sighed, holding him firmly. "Life is fragile, Ahsan. One wrong decision, one moment of carelessness, can change everything." On the drive home, this time in his father's car, Ahsan stayed silent, staring out the window. The road looked harmless and familiar again, but he knew he would never see it the same way. Every curve now felt like a reminder, every slow vehicle a warning. Every minute saved a question of whether it was worth risking lives. He realized he didn't just scare himself. He scared two other drivers, men who had families, responsibilities, and dreams. His mistake could have taken everything away from them. When he reached home, his mother hugged him tightly, tears in her eyes. Ahsan promised himself he would never put her through such fear again. He would never let impatience control him on the road. That night, as he lay in bed, the image of the white car rushing toward him replayed again and again in his mind. The headlights, the panic, the helplessness. It was a moment he would never forget. A moment that taught him a lesson he wished he had learned earlier. He knew he had been given a second chance, a chance many people never get. The next morning, Ahsan stood outside looking at the damaged car parked in the driveway. It was a painful sight, but it also reminded him of something important. Time can be regained, but a life cannot. Minutes lost could be earned back later, but a mistake made on the road could never be reversed. And from that day on, Ahsan drove differently. He slowed down at curves. He waited patiently behind slow vehicles. He respected the rules, no matter how late he was or how tired he felt, because he finally understood something simple but powerful. Being safe is always more important than being fast. And one reckless decision can put many lives at risk. Moral of the story: never overtake on a curve. Patience on the road can save your life and the lives of others.